You don't even remember when it started. Not exactly. It wasn't one bad day, one failure, one breakup. It was slower. Like smoke leaking under the door of your life at first, just a faint heaviness in your chest. Then the silence between your thoughts got louder. The things you loved felt far away. People kept talking and you kept nodding, but inside it felt like you were disappearing. You called it depression. Everyone does. But what if you're wrong? What if what you're feeling isn't the end of you, but the beginning? Carl Jung spent 6 years of his life descending into this exact darkness. He didn't call it a breakdown. He called it a descent into the self, and what came out of that descent became his most mysterious, dangerous, and sacred work, the Red Book, a book he never wanted published. While he was alive, a book filled with madness, symbols, conversations with gods and shadows, and most of all, a message for people like you. You are not depressed, you are awakening. Let me be clear. This isn't spiritual fluff. This is a psychological exorcism because right now, you feel lost, your passions feel dead, you wake up tired, you don't care about your goals. People ask you, what's wrong, and you can't answer. You cry in private and fake strength in public. But here's the truth. Discovered in his descent, depression isn't always a malfunction. It's the soul withdrawing from a life it no longer recognizes as real. You're not broken, you're being called inward, dragged into the underworld of your own unconscious, and like Jung, you're meant to walk through this internal chaos, not to escape it, but to be transformed by it. You see, the Red Book wasn't just a diary, it was a map, a record of what happens when a human being stops performing and starts confronting everything they've repressed. Jung wrote it during what he called his confrontation with the unconscious. He saw visions, he heard voices, he met figures inside himself who shattered the man he thought he was, and what he found. There was not insanity, what he found was truth. So, now let me ask you the question. This video is built around, what if the reason you feel numb is because your current self has nothing left to say? What if your depression is not a chemical imbalance, but a soul imbalance? What if the life you've built, the roles, the titles, the goals, was never yours to begin with, and now the mask is rotting and your soul is refusing to play along? This isn't dysfunction, this is a spiritual mutiny. Jung said something that should hit you in the chest. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul, but not you. Because if you found this video, you're already starting to realize the pain isn't random. It's a message. Your depression is trying to tell you something. Not just about your past, but about the false self you've become addicted to. Let me paint you a picture. Jung would have understood you're in a house. Every room is filled with people. You've smiled, played roles, kept the peace. You've tried to belong, but now you've quietly stepped into the basement. The light is dim. You're alone. It's cold. This is where people panic. They run back upstairs, back to noise, comfort, distraction. But if you stay here, if you sit in this basement long enough, something strange happens. You start to hear whispers. Not from outside, but from somewhere deep inside, and one of them says, "I've been waiting for you." That voice, that's your real self, the one you abandoned to survive the one who never wanted to be perfect. Just whole. The Red Book was Jung's record of what happened when he didn't run back upstairs. He stayed. He sat in the dark, he talked to the chaos, and he didn't find answers. Not at first. He found confusion, he found G and monsters inside his own mind, he found fear, he found madness, but through it all, he kept listening, and eventually he found his soul. So, what does this mean for you? It means maybe you don't need medication. Maybe you don't need to snap out of it. Maybe you don't need to fake a smile or fix your attitude. Maybe you just need to descend, to stop resisting, to let your old identity fall apart, to sit in the silence until the real you speaks. To flip everything you've been told about depression, consider this. You're not weak, you're not lazy, you're not doomed. You're being pulled inward, called, by something far older than society, older than your trauma, older than even your thoughts. You're being summoned by your unconscious. And if you truly venture in, you won't emerge the same. But that's precisely the point. So I'll ask you one last time. What if you're not depressed? What if you're finally hearing the voice you've been running from your entire life? And what if that voice is you? You may believe this darkness is personal, that it marks your failure, that you alone are lost in the fog. But what if I told you this feeling was never meant to be a diagnosis, but a door? A door Carl Jung dared to open when he let go of everything he knew, his career, his theories, his identity, even his sanity, and stepped straight into the abyss. The Red Book wasn't Jung's escape from darkness, it was his way of embracing it, listening to it, and discovering what lay hidden all along. In our modern world, we've sterilized depression, boiled it down to chemistry, to serotonin levels, to buzzwords like self-care. But Jung saw something far more terrifying and far more liberating. The sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of being. He believed the soul withdraws not because it's broken, but because we ignore it, ignored by our need to perform, by our attachments, by our drive to keep everything normal. So when the soul withdrew, what did Jung do? He didn't fix it, he didn't run from it. He followed it, into visions, into myth, into madness. The Red Book chronicles his journey through symbolic landscapes, deserts, serpents, gods of war, divine mothers, towers, and ruins. He called this realm the collective unconscious, a spiritual ecosystem older than your thoughts, your culture, even your name. And in it, he didn't just find chaos, he found messages. Let's explore what he saw because it speaks directly to where you are now. In the Red Book, Jung meets Philemon, a prophetic guide through the madness. Philemon isn't real, yet he's profoundly true, embodying the inner guide we all possess, the one who speaks only when we sit completely silent within. Then there's the Red One, a seductive, shadowy force of pleasure, destruction, and suppressed desire. Jung didn't fight him, he didn't try to flee, he listened because these entities aren't hallucinations, they're fragments of himself, parts of his psyche once forgotten, rejected, and buried. Here's where the truth hits hardest. In Jung's view, depression isn't the absence of happiness, it's the invasion of truth. Truth about fake friendships you maintained, goals you chased that weren't yours, versions of yourself you donned like armor just to feel safe. So the soul revolts, but its revolt doesn't roar. It numbs, it exhausts, it detaches. That's your psyche shutting off surface signals because it needs you to dive deeper. This is why Jung's Red Book journey matters to you. He stopped treating the unconscious like a disease and began treating it like a language of symbols, dreams, moods without logic, emotions from nowhere. What you call depression, Jung called initiation, a psychic death. And like any death, it's messy. You lose motivation, lose clarity, lose people, even lose your identity. But beneath the ashes, something else struggles to rise, a self that's real, unperformed, unapologetic. Now, let's be brutally honest. This awakening doesn't look pretty. It looks like falling apart. You may isolate, you may cry for no reason, you may feel rage, shame, guilt, even spiritual nausea. You may stop wanting anything, you may feel dead. But Jung reminded us, there is no coming to consciousness without pain, because becoming real isn't just a choice, it's a sacrifice. You sacrifice being liked for being whole, understood for being authentic, comfortable for being truly alive. Here's the hidden truth. This depression is just a surface name for a soul undergoing radical realignment. Society urges you to medicate it, avoid it, distract yourself, because a person who awakens is dangerous. They can't be sold lies anymore. They don't chase hollow loves. They walk away. They see through illusions. They live on truth, not approval. That's the revelation of the Red Book. Not just visions, but freedom. So if you feel like you're going mad, like your old world is collapsing, like you can't fake your smile any longer, don't panic. You're not broken. You're becoming. Becoming someone who no longer plays dead to be accepted. becoming someone who no longer waits for permission to feel. You're not regressing, you're not falling apart. You're waking up inside a reality that was never meant to contain you. The pain you feel is the pressure of a larger soul trying to fit into a smaller life. It's the sound of your inner world cracking open. It's your unconscious screaming, "This life no longer fits, become something more." That is not depression. That is awakening. No one tells you what happens after awakening begins. They talk about healing, they talk about growth, but they never mention the part where you feel like you're slowly dying, not physically, but spiritually. Because when you finally stop pretending, when your soul pulls you inward and the noise of the world fades, you're left with silence, and it's deafening. You thought awakening would feel like light. At first, it feels like loss. You stop craving the things you once obsessed over. You stop relating to the people you used to laugh with. You walk into familiar rooms that now feel foreign. The music you once loved sounds empty. Your ambitions crumble in your hands. You don't know who you are anymore, and that is terrifying, but it's also the only way forward. Jung revealed through the Red Book that enlightenment doesn't come from imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And that darkness isn't outside you, it is you. It's the parts you repress to be liked, accepted, safe. Here's what happens when your soul wakes up. 1. Relationships begin to collapse. Not all at once, but quietly, like bridges failing under weight they were never built to bear. Conversations feel hollow. You realize you were always the listener, the fixer, the one bending over backward, and one day you just stop. You stop texting first, stop laughing to keep the peace, stop entertaining dead friendships. They call you distant, cold, changed. They're right. You've stopped pretending. 2. You grieve the old you. Yes, grief. That people pleaser, the perfectionist, the overachiever, the strong one. Those were survival masks. Though they hurt you, they also protected you in a world that rewarded obedience, not authenticity. As you shed them one by one, don't be surprised if you feel empty. That emptiness isn't an ending, it's a sacred space where something real can finally grow. 3. You experience emotional whiplash. One moment, peace, the next, rage, then tears, then numbness, then a sudden clarity followed by despair. You think something's wrong with you, but Jung would say it's exactly right. As the unconscious rises, it brings everything with it. Childhood wounds, suppressed guilt, repressed anger, forbidden fantasies. They surface not to destroy you, but to be seen. Until now, they ruled your life from the shadows. This is necessary chaos. 4. You lose interest in external validation. You stop chasing followers, money, applause, not because you don't care, but because it no longer fills you. And that is your initiation. The truth you feared is the truth you need. Embrace it, listen to it, and step through the door you never knew was waiting. You post something meaningful and no one reacts, and it no longer ruins your day. You speak your truth, and if they misunderstand, you let them. You realize approval was the drug that sedated your true self, and now that you've detoxed, you're addicted to something far deeper. Silence, solitude, self-respect. 5. You become a mirror. This is the most unexpected consequence. Your presence unsettles people, not because you've done anything wrong, but because your authenticity exposes everything they're hiding. You speak calmly and they feel judged. You set boundaries and they feel abandoned. You tell the truth and they feel exposed. You've become a mirror, and people don't always like what they see. But it's not your job to make the reflection pretty. Carl Jung's awakening in the Red Book led him here. Isolation, vision, conflict, freedom. He lost friends. He was called mad. Even fellow analysts distanced themselves. But he didn't turn back, because once you've seen your soul, you can't unsee it, and you can't go back to pretending you're okay without it. This phase of awakening can last weeks, months, even years. There's no clear timeline, but it always leads to one thing: truth. Truth doesn't care about comfort. It burns, but it leaves you with clarity. You'll feel lighter, more precise, more grounded, not happy all the time, but real. And that is a joy no forced smile can ever fake. So if you're here, in the dark, in the ache, in the confusion, know this. You are not alone. You are not failing. You are not dying. You are shifting. The old you, the mask, the performance, the illusion, is breaking. Let it. Because beneath the rubble, something sacred is forming. You've felt the ache. You've sat in the silence. You've lost people, energy, identity. Now what? You're not the person you were, but you're not fully reborn yet either. You're in the in-between, and that is the most important place of all. This is where the new self is forged, not through willpower or affirmations, but through surrender. Let's be clear. Breaking free isn't escape, it's integration. If you run from the pain, you'll recreate it in new costumes. If you deny your shadow, it will return as addiction, toxic love, or fake success. If you avoid the descent, you stay half awake your whole life. Carl Jung didn't become powerful by sidestepping madness. He became powerful by walking through it, consciously, and on the other side, he didn't just return with theories, he returned with fire. Here's the path to real freedom. Not as a coping mechanism, but as a soul rising from its own ashes. 1. Let go of the need to be understood. You've spent your life explaining yourself to parents, friends, society. Not anymore. You weren't born to be understood, you were born to be whole. Some will call you selfish, cold, strange, distant, and that's okay. Being misunderstood is the price of authenticity. 2. Accept that you're not who you thought you were. Your identity was built on survival, trauma, people-pleasing, projection. You thought you were strong because you didn't cry. You thought you were kind because you never said no. You thought you were healed because you kept busy. Now you see it for what it was. Compensation. Letting it go feels like death, but it's the death that makes room for real life. Because it is. You're mourning a version of yourself who only ever wanted to be loved. Don't hate that version. Don't shame them. Thank them, then bury them, and walk forward. 3. Build a ritual around your silence. In the Red Book, Jung didn't just think. He listened, he journaled, he painted, he walked, he meditated. He treated his silence like a temple, not a punishment. That's what you must do now. Don't escape the silence, enter it. Let it speak, let it echo. Let it reveal what your mind has never dared to face. Silence isn't empty, it's full of truths you've never heard because the world was always too loud. 5. Create a new inner Torah. When the old world collapses, don't rebuild the same thing. Build something different. Write a new code. I no longer trade authenticity for acceptance. I no longer chase what leaves me empty. I protect my peace as sacred because it is. I walk away without guilt. I speak what's real, not what's easy. I stop explaining my worth. It is self-evident. I give love but never beg for it. Let this code become your anchor. The outer world will try to drag you back. When it does, your new self will smile and say, I don't live there anymore. 5. Transcend the label of depression. This may be controversial. Hear it fully. You are not your diagnosis. You are not your pain. You are not a victim of your chemistry. That doesn't mean your suffering isn't real. It means there's something deeper than it. Jung's Red Book offered not a cure, but context. Depression wasn't an end state. It was a soul state, a phase of descent. And descent is sacred because it prepares you for rebirth. Stop trying to go back to who you were before the darkness. That person was never you. Now you live differently, not out of fear, but out of clarity. You say no without guilt. You leave rooms that drain you. You take breaks before you burn out. You stop talking when they stop listening. You stop performing for love. You let the silence carry your message. You no longer need the world to make you feel real. You remember you were real before you were ever rewarded. This isn't about becoming someone new, it's about removing everything that was never truly you. That's what Jung did. When he emerged from his inner hell, he didn't just write theories, he changed psychology. He changed history simply by facing what most men run from, themselves. You have that same power, but it won't come through struggle alone. It comes through surrender, by sitting in your own fire long enough to understand you were never broken, only buried. Now you rise, not perfectly, but truthfully. You walk differently, with sight, not arrogance, with gravity, not to impress, but to exist. You will lose people. Let them go. You will question yourself. Keep walking. You will feel alone, but in that loneliness, you will meet the only person who truly matters. You. The one who didn't run. The one who stayed in the storm. The one who sat with the shadows. The one who kept breathing through the silence. Now that you've seen the truth, you will never trade it for comfort again. And here it is, the final echo, the line that lives in every soul brave enough to descend and return. You are not depressed. You are remembering who you are, and you're not done. You're just getting started.